heard the call of the great far north, where the mountains reach to the sun, that great white waste of ice and snow, that land that most men shun. You know, folks, ever since I first read those famous lines of Alaska, I've always wanted to visit that far-flung frontier of ice and snow. I've always wanted to blaze a trail in that land of great white silences, to go mushing through the frozen north, that region of lonely men, to hear the call of the wild and live on gumdrops and igloos. For years, I had planned this as my big adventure. At last, the great day arrived. My lifetime ambition was about to be realized. We were leaving the heat of Seattle behind. My heart was all aflutter, and my stateroom was all alitter with fur-lined coats, a coonskin cap, Arctic boots, and my long red flannels. The ship is underway. For 5 days and nights we wound in and out among tiny islands covered with spruce and hemlock, but always our course was toward the land of the midnight sun. 1,000 miles north, and still no snow, as we feel our way into the landlocked harbor of Sitka. Long before a civilization existed anywhere else on the Pacific coast, Alexander Baranov, the little Tsar of the Pacific, conquered the hostile Indians and established the Russian capital. Here they ruled until the purchase by the United States for the trifling sum of a little over $7 million. The Russians have disappeared, but the remnant of the once proud Tlingit Indians remain, selling their wares on a curb market. A good place to buy trinkets from Tlingits. That is, if you don't accept their first quotation. From the prices they ask, you would think of it trying to square the bad bargain Russia made with the United States. Back in the dark forest are many totem poles, monuments of this once powerful race of red men. The strange, colorful, and artistic carvings on these totems tell a story or record of fact, just as we carve letters on the monuments of our departed great. One totem tells the history and valorous deeds of a great warrior chief. Other totems set forth the story of a chief's family and contain the sacred ashes of that clan. Animals, such as the bear, fox, wolf, and raven, are a sort of family crest to them, and these animals are always prominent in the carvings of the family history upon the totem pillars. Leaving Sitka, we again journey northward toward the town of Skagway, which sprang into being during the wild stampede for gold to the Klondike in '98. The ship feels its way through deep water passages, along cliff walls thousands of feet high, so that it seems like sailing right through the Yosemite Valley. Once a turbulent city of 30,000, but now with a scant population of 300, which only springs to life upon the arrival of a ship. The head man of Skagway, a fantastic character named Martin Itchen, operates what he calls the Skagway streetcar. Martin is proud of his watch chain of real gold nuggets, each nugget a chapter of Skagway's history. His make-believe bear snaps at imaginary pedestrians as the bus creeps along the deserted streets of Skagway. Martin has never seen any real traffic in his whole life. He got this idea from cutting out paper dolls and old pictures of Charlie Chaplin. Here is a grim memorial to the notorious bad man of Skagway, Soapy Smith. There was no law north of 63 for Soapy, except the laws he made for himself. Nearby is a funny little hotel run by Mrs. Pullen, a tremendously interesting character who knew Soapy Smith well and enjoyed his confidence. Could she write a book? Proudly, Mrs. Pullen speaks of Soapy and shows a few of her treasured keepsakes. The six-footer in the foreground with the $1 million beard is Soapy himself. He and his gang robbed and killed the hapless miners returning from the gold fields. And this is Soapy's last six-shooter. He was mighty ashamed of its having only 2 notches, but it just arrived from Seattle on Friday, and on Sunday he and a man named Frank Reed shot it out. And this is the end of Soapy. From Skagway we traveled another 1,000 miles, which brought us just below the Arctic Circle. But instead of our expected ice and snow, what do we find but a farmer, busy with his spring plowing. And flowers, acres of them, flowers of all varieties, growing to unusual size under the warm rays of the midnight sun. Only a short distance into the backcountry, the mountains are alive with game. Wild sheep scamper over the mountains, suction cups on their feet enabling them to cling to the almost vertical cliffs like so many flies. An old-timer swears they can walk upside down, and that that's the way he gets to sleep every night, counting the sheep walking upside down on the ceiling. We were beginning to give up our belief in either snow or Santa Claus when we ran into Santa Claus' backyard, or what really looked like it, for here were thousands upon thousands of caribou on their annual migration, a walk of thousands of miles. Their destination, no one knows. The female caribou gets a break. She is the only female among all horned animals who has horns like the male. And does she know this, and strut her horns? Nearing Ketchikan, we see the great salmon traps, made with wire netting attached to piling in the middle of the stream. The salmon live in the ocean, but return to their own native river for breeding purposes. Swimming upstream against the current, the fish run into the nets. They never think of turning around and swimming back to liberate themselves. I guess they have traffic laws too, and a big bluefish telling them it's a one-way river. Or else they heed the slogan, never change courses in the middle of a stream. During the run of the salmon, boats crawl into traps, scoop up the fish and transport them to cold storage plants and canneries. When the large flat net is lowered, it immediately sinks below the surface. The fish swarm over, and it is hauled in with half a ton of fish at a time. Armed watchmen stand guard during the fishing season to prevent fish pirates or poachers from stealing the salmon by the boatload. Most anyone would like to go fishing if you could catch them as easy as this. Even nervous, impatient folks. And the fish almost jump up into your lap. Honestly, they look like they enjoy being caught. Millions upon millions of salmon are taken from Alaskan waters every year, bringing in a revenue of from $40 to $50 million annually. We realize that in Alaska, it's the poor fish that pays and pays. And while the fish continue to pile in, we might boast a little. You recall that we bought all of Alaska from Russia for a little more than $7 million. And now we get more than $50 million a year from the fish alone. But wait, that isn't half of it. Guess who buys a goodly portion of the fish? The Russians. And just to emphasize what a grand bargain it was, we might mention the fact that nearly $1 billion worth of gold, silver, copper, and coal have been taken out of Alaska since the United States paid that first $7 million. All these fish are taken to Ketchikan and placed in cold storage, where more salmon are canned than in any other city in the world. That name Ketchikan is too good to pass over lightly. Sounds like catch as catch can. And that's just what they do. When they catch them, they can them. This one boat made a haul of 18,000 salmon in 30 minutes, and there are over 800 boats operating out of this port. The fish are immediately cleaned and washed. Then, carted into the quick freezing room where a temperature of 40 degrees below zero is maintained. Here they are stacked and allowed to freeze solid. Later, they are placed in a basket, which is immersed in swift running water. The cold temperature of the fish themselves causes the water to immediately congeal around their bodies, forming a glazed coating. Fish can be kept here indefinitely. In fact, one 75-pound salmon, old Ironsides they called him, was dragged out periodically, and every year for 10 years won the first prize for the biggest fish caught that season, until he gradually wore out. Back on the steamer bound for the States, it occurred to me that after all my quest for the thrill of the frozen north, I had found it at last. I was happy. For now I could go back home and proudly exhibit 2 frostbitten fingers to prove that I'd been really north of 63. But I won't tell the folks that I really frosted my fingers in an ice house because I'd forgotten to bring my mittens.